Ed Riley has the experience, the desire, the total wherewithal to take on this total project to bring life back to a building that stands as an anchor to that part of downtown Syracuse. Takes a lot of chutzpah, a lot of connections, a bunch of imagination, and an unlimited willingness to bring this encounter off, and probably a lot of money. A native Syracusan with a wealth of financial, construction, development, hospitality expertise, and experience, having Ed Riley return to Syracuse with a dream of bringing the Hotel Syracuse back to life is a challenge the whole community is behind, and Ed Bailey, with his leadership, is breaking their backs to come to fruition. On reflection, the community is very blessed to have the right person at the right time, at the right place to take on this endeavor. A quick few facts about Ed Riley. He was a senior vice president, project manager, and construction vice president of development at a firm, hold on, for a development operation called Pyramid Hotel. He was educated at Syracuse University and comes out of the School of Architecture, which kind of migrates or tangents to where his background is. You have to be something, and being an architect helps with this endeavor, in my sense. Please welcome Ed Riley with our usual Manlius Senior Center warm welcome.
I don't know how I can top that. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. I'm honored to be here today. I give a lot of these presentations, or I have over the last 2 years, as part of, basically telling people what we're going to do, but also telling them initially for the first 2 years, and I've been now doing this close to 3 years, is when I first started this journey, is to say that it could be done. Because the first thing we had to do was convince people that it could be done. And that took a little bit. That took a little bit of convincing after all the other things that were there. Also, my first run at buying the hotel was 16 years ago. And it was when it was having its first financial difficulties. And it was probably the best thing that ever happened to me was that I didn't get it at that time. I needed the experience, but more so, that downtown Syracuse was still sort of languishing in a little bit of a problem, losing people, losing its position in the community, and it hadn't matured enough. One of the main reasons that this project is viable right now, and I've been so fortunate to be able to get it moving and going again, is because of all the work that all these other people have done in downtown Syracuse to make it vibrant, to get people to live there. I mean, one of the things that I get a huge kick out of is when I'm working on the weekend, on either Saturday or Sunday, and I see somebody in their pajamas walking their dog. It's like, I know something's going on. It's good, So all that basically lended itself to be a perfect storm to bring this really iconic hotel back. And also understand that the Hotel Syracuse holds a place, not just in Syracuse. I have gotten emails and calls from my friends and colleagues throughout the country that know this building. They know the architect, George B. Post and Sons, who designed the Waldorf Astoria building in New York City, did the Statler hotels throughout the country. His sons took the firm forward up into the 1960s. It's one of the things that we're very lucky to have, is that we have all the drawings, the original drawings from 1922. We have the entire set of drawings. They're all on file in the New York Historical Society, and we can call them up and get them. So it makes guessing not really part of the problem for us. Now, we always find surprises down there, I can tell you that. We've had more than a couple, but we're very fortunate that we've got a great community support, growth in downtown, and a building that still is in good enough shape to be saved. And all those things play together. It is historic property. So this is a rendering, basically, of the prow of the building, or basically its signature element at the corner of Warren and Onondaga. And the reason I put this up first is there's a couple things to notice. That the bridge that used to be between the tower that was built in the 80s and this building is now going to be gone. And we're restoring the whole facade of Onondaga Street. There'll be a slide in later to show you that. But we're trying to make this building stand alone the way it used to be. And the main entrance to this hotel in the first 60 years or 50 years of its life was on Onondaga Street. That's where people got dropped off. That was its address, and it'll be its new address when it returns. The 500 South Warren will go away. The new address legally of the hotel will be 100 East Onondaga Street. And that's what we want, is we want to bring it back and bring it back to its roots. Just a little slide of the entrance on Warren. Now, this entrance will be restored. The actual guts of the entrance that you see on the overhang, that will be, it's still there. We're going to keep that, and we're actually going to replicate everything you see. So when you come up to Warren Street and Onondaga Street, that's what you'll see is that entrance and coming in. The only difference you will no longer see is, number one, the Hotel Syracuse sign at the top. Sort of, that's a little cheesy. We decided that that wasn't something we wanted to do. We will keep the hotel signs on either side, but the word hotel will go away, and it will no longer be called the Hotel Syracuse. I will say that since I picked up my legal documents yesterday, and there's been no formal notification, that the new name of the hotel will be the Marriott Syracuse. So this hotel will now be a full-service Marriott hotel, a downtown hotel. Pretty special that a corporation like Marriott and the people behind it said, they came in and said, we think you're doing a great job, we think we want to put our moniker on this. So this will now be the Marriott Syracuse. This is a plan of the first floor, and as you know, this building is an urban hotel. So the first floor was set up initially for businesses and tenants that serve the hotel and serve the community. The lobby and the check-in facilities are actually on the second floor. So here you can see, and I go over here and point it out a little bit, at the prow of the building in the corner right here, we're actually going to put the 3-meal restaurant. Because a lot of people know, for whatever reasons in Syracuse, people don't like to walk up the stairs in the lobby to go to the restaurant. I haven't figured it out, I don't know why, but I'm not going to fight it. I'm just not going to. So we decided that the best place to put them in the 3-meal restaurant was right at the corner of the hotel, with exposure to really the main Warren Street, Onondaga Street, and to activate that corner with outdoor seating. So we want that to be the gathering place around the hotel. Now, as you go down through along Onondaga Street, the new main entrance will be here, and where the Rainbow Lounge was in that location, and lastly was Coach Max, the Rainbow Lounge will be restored. And if you remember that, it has very Art Deco with a round circular bar, a metal ceiling, and a lot of neon lights, and that's going to be brought back. Now, it's not going to be a public open lounge bar. What it's going to be is it's going to be a pre-function and a welcoming area for our conference center. Because what we're doing is we're taking the entire area underneath the 1980s addition, and we're putting a series of what's called IAC level meeting spaces in there. And we're doing that to serve the convention business, because we will be designated, and have been designated already by the county and ourselves have signed the agreement, as the headquarters convention center hotel. So, you know, one of the problems with the convention center is that it doesn't have enough breakout space. We're providing the breakout space so the guests that are going to conventions can come over here, break into small groups and do that. And it also activates an area that we call the bingo hall, if you remember that, that really didn't get a lot of work and a lot of use. So we wanted to keep that active, and we want to have it happen. In the back, as we go along Harrison Street, this is all back of house. The hotel gets serviced from Harrison Street. It's just, it always has been. It'll continue to do that. And then in this location right here, that's our community area. The Hotel Syracuse was a community hotel. What that means is that in the 1920s, early 1920s, the community came together and said, we need a first-class hotel. We don't know of any one individual that's going to come here, one company that's going to do it. So the business leaders and the community leaders got together and said, okay, we're going to build it. And they put the money up, they secured the financing, and they sold stock to it. And that occurred in the early 1920s. When it opened, it was a community hotel from 24 until about 1936. And then they had a little bit of a row between the management company and the community over how funds were being expended in certain areas. And the community won the lawsuit, and it went, again, it still kept as a community hotel, but the original stock shares were transferred to just the community, and the management company was taken out of it. excuse me, it was owned as a community hotel until the early 1960s, when it was sold to a private company. And that sort of was the start of the demise of the hotel after that point, where the private owners didn't take ownership in it and didn't keep it up as well as everyone else. So we're again trying to bring it back to its roots, and our community area is just that for the community. It's for a group like this to go there and meet and have this type of an engagement, and they get it for free. That's part of our giving back to our community. We won't cater it for free, we'll cater it for cost. But the room, the setup, the maintenance and all that is on us. That's part of hospitality, that's what we do. We try to be hospitable, once in a while. In the corner right here, I'll say one other thing about this, because it's very important in terms of how this deal was structured and put together is, initially that will be our hiring center. And we've committed to hire the bulk of our employees locally. And by locally, we mean people that are very local to the distressed areas around the hotel. So we're partnering with SUNY Morrisville, the technical center, some other people to basically go through pre-screen, pre-train people, and then at the appropriate time bring them in and train them to be hotel employees. It doesn't mean that we're not going to hire from outside that immediate area. You can get a job. It's just that that's our focus, and that again is giving back to the community. When this hotel is open, it'll have approximately 200 to, well, actually 250 full-time equivalent positions. But in the hospitality business, a lot of people don't work, you know, full-time. So that's going to equate to probably in the neighborhood of 300 to 350 families, people that'll have jobs at this hotel, okay, that currently don't have jobs in the community, because we're creating those jobs. The economic impact of that, to give you an idea, the gross sales of the hotel when it stabilizes are close to $32 million a year into the economy. So that's a little bit of an impact to downtown Syracuse, as one might say. Our sports bar, obviously very important in this community. I'm being a rabid SU basketball and football fan, along with playing lacrosse at Syracuse years ago. That's important. That'll be at the corner now of Harrison and Warren, close to the convention center, so that we can get the business down there. And probably our single most valuable aspect that we see right now completing this is this space right here, which will probably be a Starbucks or a coffee place. I know everybody likes those, so we're pretty happy with them. So that's the first floor of the hotel. Totally animated, totally controlled by the hotel to get people engaged and to make the streetscape what we want it to be and reinvigorate the area, because right now it's dark most of the time. This is a little shot of our lobby, Citra 1930s. If you look at it now, it's all painted white. Everything's it's a mess right now since we're demolishing it and pulling it apart, but it's all been painted white. All the texture and vibrancy of it are gone. We are bringing back the lobby to this level of finish. I'm not going to say that the furnishings will be there, but that's the level that we'll go to. We're going to have painters come in and repaint and antique the ceilings that were all coffered cast plaster, but they were faux painted to look like wood, with wood graining and the like in them. The chandeliers are all original. They're still there. They're in great shape, and we're talking to 2 local companies to restore them all and rewire them. And that's another thing we're doing. Anywhere where I can, we try to target local companies to do the work. If I can get somebody here locally to do that, it's very important. And one of your local companies right around the corner, Stickley, I've met with them twice. They originally put in the furnishings through E.W. Edwards' department store into the hotel in the 1924s. Stickley did a lot of furnishings in it. We would like to have them do areas of the building that suit them the best. And they've agreed that they're doing that, and they're giving us pricing on it. And we've also talked to Hardin and some other people about coming in and doing this, even to the point where we're taking some of the chairs that are from the 30s and 40s and 50s, and we're looking at those basically to refurnish them and reuse them in some of our rooms and some of our suites in the hotel. This is what it looks like, sort of. Sort of. We're doing a pretty good number on it right now, I can tell you. But the one thing that's happened, I don't know if I have a photograph, I probably don't, I should modify this, but these mirrored walls were taken down. All they are is a false glass front in front of that. And that's where the mural is that you've read about, you know, in the city. It was done in 1948, celebrating the 100th anniversary of the incorporation of the city, not the village of Syracuse, but the city of Syracuse. It was painted by Carl Roche. He was a artist at Syracuse University and taught there, very well renowned. He's done these across the country. We have not only the final version on the wall, we also have his studies. They were done on wood also. We have those, and we're going to display those in the hotel. And as some of you might know, we've come to an agreement with OHA where we have access to their artwork and to their archives to basically copy and to take original works and put them in the hotel on display. We want to interconnect the history of our community, you know, in with a modern hotel. That's very important to us. This is about Syracuse. As a city councilor said to me a couple of years ago when we were talking about this, the Hotel Syracuse is where Syracuse keeps its memories. And that's a true statement. It's a very true statement in terms of what it has to be. And that's a big thing to keep, make sure we don't lose. This is the Persian Terrace. This is Citra probably about 1940-ish, around there. The chandeliers are not original. They're gone now. They put some knockoffs, as they call it, in there. It shows the bandstand. We will be restoring the bandstand with the marble back to where it was originally. We will be restoring the dance floor, which is under the sort of yucky parquet floor that's there. And then the mural that you see on the side, we've got to talk about and see what we can do. Unfortunately, this one didn't survive very well. It has 2 coats of paint over it, and then it has a layer of vinyl wall covering on it. So we're not quite so sure how we're going to be able to do that. We may do it in segments, or we may do it as artwork. Personally, I have a little issue in my life. My wife collects elephants from all over the globe that we traveled and done, and she saw the elephant on the wall and she said, "You are restoring the elephant." So I gotta say, something in this room is gonna happen. You will see up in the ceiling right here that there's hand-painted figures up that are put up in the coffered ceiling. None of that right now is exposed. That's all buried with a layer of acoustic tile that they glued up there at some point in the 50s. We're actually taking that tile down. Some of it, the one on the other side we've already exposed. And we've had both an artisan and also a restoration specialist come in. And there's different ways of doing that. In restoring it, it can be hand painted, or it can be computer digitized and then put on a canvas, and then the canvas put up like wallpaper or wall vinyl on top of it. So we're looking at either way, but our goal is to bring the ceiling back and give it the rich mahogany feeling that it was, again, faux painted to do. This is all cast plaster. And then to paint the columns in the marbleized form that they originally were, restore the bandstand, restore the floors, and I guess I'm probably going to end up restoring the elephant at least. We'll go from there. This is the plan of the lobby, and probably the biggest thing, if you've been at the hotel before it closed, at this point right here, there's a wall, and the bar used to be located up until it closed at this point. And this whole area here is offices in the back of the bar area. What we're doing as part of our restoration is we're taking that wall down, we're taking the bar out, it's already gone, and the wall's partially down, and we're taking out the mezzanine that they built in this bay, and we're restoring this back to full to the prow, so that when you're sitting in this lobby, you can look right out to the corner of Warren and Onondaga Streets, like it was back when it originally opened. Now this is going to give us additional function space, so that if you have an event in the Persian Terrace, before the event you can have cocktails and that and relax and get people sort of loosened up, and then they can go into dinner, which right now you don't have. And that's a functional problem with the hotel that we had to solve within the history of it. This is the Persian Terrace in this location. Everyone will be happy to know that one of our big improvements to the hotel throughout is we're adding men's and women's restrooms. We all know how much fun that was in an event there, right? There'll be a small bar right here that'll feed into the lobby. This is back of house in our reception area, or check-in, main entrance, Warren Street entrance, and this is all our kitchen, which will be totally redone. And this is the 80s edition up here with the Imperial Ballroom, which divides into 3. And this was the restaurant when the hotel closed. It's now going back to being the lobby lounge bar. And originally it was the tea room and the soda fountain. That's when it opened in the 1920s. We're going to put the bar back where that bar was, and when it was the soda fountain area. and then we're going to open up this wall to the Imperial Ballroom so that you can walk through. The big change here, and you can see it's shadowed, is the bridge is gone and the connection down to this point on the historic building are gone. And we'll be reinstalling all these large Palladian 2-story windows in these 2 bays, and we'll be opening this all back up and then getting these 2 windows opened up. So the whole lobby gets natural light. Because I'll tell you, on a day like today, when you're in there, it's dark. It's really dark. So we really need to engage the street again and give it really the flavor that it used to have. The other thing we're doing is we're going to be cutting a very large opening in the floor, and as you come in the entrance to the conference center, there'll be a new grand staircase that brings you up from both the area down below, which is the sort of the pre-function area and also the meeting spaces that are there, up to the Imperial Ballroom, so that has a much grander entrance and can be used. But that ballroom is not going to be used as much for social catering and events as it's going to be used to service business events. That's sort of the modern ballroom to today's standards. It's going to be gutted and brought back. You know, your decorative ballroom, this being our smaller one here, that's where really the social events will go. And that's where the decorations and that's where the pizzazz of the building will be, the historic parts. This is what it looks like today in a guest room. Anybody want to make a reservation? We'll take it, no big deal.
It needs some artwork.
Yeah, a little bit. This is actually, right now, about 60% of the building has been gutted. We have obviously a huge cleanup issue to go through before we can do anything else in the building, because back in these days, people used a lot of asbestos in construction, so that has to come out. Our single biggest staining issue that we have in all the artwork in the lobbies is tobacco staining, because that used to be fun. So there's how our culture changes over a period of time. But what you can see here is the original structure to the building. It's in great shape. I mean, I tell people you bounce a plane off this building before it would do much to it. Built very well. We're keeping the corridors, which you see in the background, but this is a room where we're gutting out the bathrooms and we'll be rebuilding them in their entirety. And this is what the corridors look like just before. So the corridors stay. The millwork, the trim, and the height of the corridors are going to remain, and that's all going to be restored. We'll have artwork, new lighting, etc. The rooms are a totally new room product. Not quite like this. No, it's a little rough on the bedspread. No, the drapes are a little loud for me. But the TV, that's where I have this. That's what we're looking at for TV. This is a layout of the floor. And what we're doing right here is, the yellow you see is the historic corridors. They have to stay. This hotel is being renovated to the Interior Department historic standards because we're taking advantage of the historic tax credits, and we syndicate those out to large groups. That's one of the key components in getting this done. And I'll talk a little bit about that. We can talk about it now. I mean, financially, as I tell people, this was a very simple math problem to solve. It's going to cost $67 million to renovate this hotel, to get it open and to get a flag on it and make it sustainable for 25 years. Okay? The problem is, when you open it and you have people come here, it only has a value of about $37 million. So you have a $30 million delta that you have to make up. We call it the gap. Okay? And that gap has to be filled with things like the historic tax credits, which generate about $14 million in tax credit equity that we can get through. They come from the grants as being the headquarters convention center hotel. There's a $15 million grant that was originally to go to another site, but we had transferred to here. And then it goes to anything else that we can patch up to sort of put into our financing. So as we stand right now, we've totally filled the gap. So we're all done with that. Of course, we better be, because we turned the building up. So, but we're done, and we've filled all the parts and pieces in. So it's a matter of just executing. But it was a very difficult time to convince everyone that it could be done, that they were putting their money in the right place, and that this would end up at the end of the day as a full-service, high-end four-diamond hotel. And that's what this is, an upper upscale hotel when it's all said and done. The rooms that you see here, light blue and dark blue, these are the new room modules. And basically what we're doing is we're taking the old rooms, which are very small, if you remember, and we're blowing them apart, so it's 2 for 1. When the hotel opened in the 1924 range, it had 612 rooms at opening in that hotel. They were small rooms. You know, we will have 261 rooms when we reopen next year. Of that 261, we're not renovating the second floor, and we're not renovating half of the third floor. So I'm holding about 60 rooms sort of back to see what the market is and how well this is received in the market before I build them and put them in place. Because if you build them, you have to staff them, you have to take care of them, you have to do that. And one of the problems with this hotel, one of the things that really killed it was they had all these rooms, nobody was staying in them, but they still had to staff them and have employees. And it sunk under its own weight. And I'm very, very cautious about what I call sustainability. And I don't mean sustainability in terms of the environment. That's important to us. But I'm very concerned about sustainability economically. I don't want to have this open and be back and have a financial problem, you know, in 5 years. When it comes back, I want it back for good. That's really what I want to see. At the prow, can I hold them to the end? Okay. At the prow of the building, though, right here, this group of rooms, all the way through the building, this group of rooms at the prow was suites. That's where people like the Rolling Stones, John Lennon, Bill and Hillary, et cetera, they all stayed in the suites at this prow. We're keeping those suites. We like the fireplace, we like the layout, we like what we're doing. So at the corner of the building, these rooms and the configurations are staying the way they are, because they are a little larger. We are renovating the bathrooms. You know, it's not going to be one of those, you know, old, very small bathrooms. So we're giving larger bathrooms primarily by reconfiguring the closets. So the new modern bathroom, but you'll be able to stay in an old room. And it'll have furniture that is more in keeping with that period. So we're going to look at some and have some that have, you know, furniture that goes back into the 40s, some that's into the 60s. I don't know about the 70s and 80s thing. That's not a time that I think is good, so we'll move along. And then as far as the new rooms are concerned, most of these are for group business, and they're geared towards people that come from the convention center. And there's a lot of double doubles, queen doubles is what we call them. And that's to serve, again, our main focus for the rooms is to get into the convention center and make sure it's right. Here's a layout of the rooms, and these are pretty much today's standards. When I say today, it's like really very, very, very new rooms. Showers, you know, a private commode area, double vanity, wardrobe closet when you come in. You've got a king on the right-hand side. You've got with a king bed on the left, and on the other side is a sectional couch that pulls out into another bed. On the other side are queen doubles. Again, when you do convention center hotels, you get a lot of people that double and triple bunk when they go to these, so you try to have queens and a lot of pull-outs so that all those people can stay together. And that's a big part of the SMERF and the convention center business that we have. And these will all be brand new everything, right from the corridor walls down. Now the one thing we are keeping, and we have a couple little design things that the architect loved me for, these doors right here, that's the original door locations have to remain, and the original doors have to remain, because they're very historic in character, and obviously the windows have to remain. So if you know what these doors are, they're the servadors, or we also call them coffin lid doors. And those doors open from both sides and are basically hollow in the middle. So that if you were a guest in the 1920s and you wanted to have your wardrobe done for your meeting the next day, you would open up your side, you would hang up your clothes in the door, close it, call the porter would come up, got a skeleton key, open up the outside, take it down, have it cleaned and pressed, bring it back up, hang it back in, and hit a button on the door, and it would tell you that your clothes were back. So we're not going to have that service because of fire codes and the like. People jumping through your door probably wouldn't be good either, but what we're going to do is keep all the doors, and we're refinishing and reusing them along with the hardware because it's all in very good shape. So that's where you see the ones that are in back of the vanity, they're fixed in place. They'll just be the door permanently closed. But on the right-hand side, the left-hand side, those doors will actually be the original doors to the hotel, refinished with new lock hardware, but have the original swings and everything else on it. Again, keeping with the character. And I can only find 2 other Statlers, I think, in the country that still have those doors. I know there's one in Boston, and I think there's one It's either in Kansas City or St. Louis are the only two that still have them. So we're one of the few that will still have those doors left. And this is a rendering of what the inside of the room will look like at that point. So very clean, very modern, you know, to today's standards. You know, flat screen TV, don't worry about that old tube TV. Not really that. All right. Yeah, just a very clean, nice look to a hotel. And this is really what's important to the flag, is that they sell rooms. And that's what they want to do, is that the expectation is the room product was never addressed here. Half of the bathrooms in this hotel that we're ripping out right now are original to 1924. And I mean original. Nothing's changed. So that was a problem. It was very, very much a problem. Now we've solved that problem. And this makes the project, and this makes the hotel a viable restoration. And this is the vanity, very much to today's standards, what you'd expect. And again, these are the new rooms. We still have the historic that we're going to be restoring. Grand Ballroom up on 10. This is probably the signature room in the hotel. This is a photograph of it before the ceiling was covered with acoustic tiles. It's a cloud painted ceiling. If you've been in New York City at the New York Public Library, they have a ceiling that will be very similar in appearance when this is done. This ceiling will look the same. The floors are still intact. Basically everything that you see in this photograph is still in that room. The chandeliers will be brought down. All the cut glass in the chandeliers that's missing or broken will be replaced. The chandeliers will be totally rewired. The cloth wiring doesn't cut it these days. You know, and also, you think it's just the chandeliers, but actually, there's more money in restoring all of the lights on the wall and the columns all the way around, which are also of the same style with the same cut glass patterns in them. So it's not just the chandeliers, which everyone looks at. Also, we'll be restoring the ceiling. We're not going to take the tiles down that are up there. It's just too much work, and it wouldn't really do much at the end of the day. But it's with historic standards, we're going to replicate that ceiling and repaint it as a cloud ceiling to give it this really a great feeling to the room that we wanted. And this is how it looks today. A little drab, just a tad. I can tell you that the floors aren't near that clean today. There's a lot of dust up there. And this is a little bit of a plan of that floor to let you know. This is the Grand Ballroom space right here in this location. This is two-story space. This is the junior ballroom of the Empire Room. This is pre-function with our elevators. And then over here are our boardrooms and private dining rooms. The kitchen that's in this area right here will go away. This is a little bit of a dated plan, but this is the one where I told the architects, you gotta get more restrooms up here. It was a great ploy when they built this. They have 4 water closets on this entire floor. You had to get a room if you had an event up here, or you didn't drink, one or the other. That's all it was doing. So we're going to make it a little easier. You don't have to get a room. There will be a place to use the facility. And all the historic rooms will be restored back to the historic character that we have. And this is on the 11th floor. Now the 11th floor is the one that took probably the biggest beating of anything in the building, because all the roofs, as I say, I have a really great Swiss cheese roof. And you know, the leaks have been all the way through here. In fact, in one area we don't even have a roof. We just got tarps on it because it blew off. So up here what we're going to be doing is effectively gutting this floor from about this point all the way through. And we're focusing on our social catering element. I mean, look, I've had a bunch of people here already tell me that they have their wedding receptions and their weddings here. You know, we've already got a waiting list. Started on this for events and weddings. We get calls all the time. And so what we're doing is, this is a bridal and groom suite that we have. So the bridal party and everything can be here. They can set up. They can get ready for it. The spa is here, so the ladies can get all gussied up and ready to go and stay right in this area. This is the presidential suite, and it'll be a real presidential suite, you know, with a butler's pantry and a small kitchen in it. So you do a hotel this level, you have to have the kit of parts that says you're a 4-diamond hotel, that you are a luxury hotel. And that's part of what you've got to have. Our fitness center will be up here. Get some good views looking over the city when you work out. And then we'll have a secondary suite down here. Again, it's more of an overflow. So if you've got 2 weddings, which is very much, there's 2 or 3 weddings going on in this building at a given time, that if the family wants to have one here, you know, have their family here, and the other wedding wants to have it there, they have the capacity to handle it. It is a huge, huge business for this hotel. And it keeps this hotel going. You know, if you had to rely just on the rooms and the business segment, this hotel would not make sense. Wouldn't make sense. You just go along. But because of its strength, because of you, the community, and how much you want to use it and be there, that's what keeps this thing going. And I'll give you an example of that. On a typical urban hotel, full-service luxury hotel like this, you figure your room revenue, the gross proceeds that you have a year from selling rooms, and the gross proceeds you have from catering. If you're doing 80% rooms and 20% catering, you pretty much look at your management company and say, wow, you're doing a great job. This hotel, almost since the day it opened, did 50-50, even when the rooms were doing good. And that's in 1998. I was looking at numbers the other night on this for a reason, some strange reason. And in 1998, the social catering in this hotel was $5.6 million. The room revenue was $4.9 million. Pretty amazing. Is the community's support of this property has really enabled it to still be around and still be. So we gotta play to the home team, as they say. This is the elevation along Onondaga Street, and again, the bridge is gone. We're restoring this whole facade, which these two windows are there, they're just buried, but these two were yanked out. So we actually have new windows made exactly like the balance of them. The storefront will be restored, the new entrance marquee will be put on. This one was taken off. The entrance will be restored. That'll be our main entrance. This is the restaurant at this end. This is the conference center entrance that's being put on, and we're recladding that lovely brick facade that they built and sort of turned it on, you know, back onto Salina Street. It just turns its back, and we want to make it more sympathetic to the building, and then we are going to put the sign back on the top. But it just won't be Hotel Syracuse, but the sign will be at the top of the building, along with the rest of our signage. So all of Onondaga Street will be upgraded. That'll be our front door. There'll be new hardscape. There'll be new softscape landscaping. It'll be activated with benches. We're looking at some historic pieces to go in there. And at the end of the building, this elevation doesn't show it because we just started to talk to the city about this, but I do a lot. I've done buildings in Armory Square and other places and a lot of historic buildings. One of the things that we have, which I think is a little bit of a treasure that people don't know about, is the original, or the third courthouse that stands where the newspaper building was years ago. Was torn down in the 60s, but they saved the tower element of it. And that's been saved, and it's kicked around different places out at the airport right now. It's big stones. And I'm going out to there tomorrow to see if there's in good enough shape to reassemble as a clock tower at the end of that two-story addition in the front. Sort of bring it back and see if we can bring that back, you know, into the project and into the community. It's a gorgeous piece of architecture. And all the stones, I've seen pictures of them. They look like they're in good shape. We'll see if we can reassemble them. Original drawings, I brought a copy. That's what they used to look like. I have one framed actually in my office. And that one's on linen with ink. That's the way architects used to draw back in the day. I'm going to say that my first drawing was on linen and ink. I remember that back in the day. This is the ballroom drawings. You can see the level of detail that we have and what they did. So we don't guess on anything in terms of going through the process here. And this is the rendering of what it's going to look like when we're done. Now, I haven't talked about the tower next door very much, but that is part of the project. One of my partners and this is also over there. We're both involved in both of these. We will be looking at the tower. We will be repositioning that and bringing it in as part of the whole redevelopment of the project. It won't be directly connected or affiliated with this. This does show the clock tower, only the top of this would be what we're talking about, is taking this top off and putting the old courthouse clock tower on that. We think that has a lot of, you know, interest in it. And we see the activation down on Onondaga, and you know, really bringing back that area that, you know, that's really, you know, been lacking. You know. And my goal on opening, I'm sure everybody wants to know, when are you going to open? I'm trying. I say this. We're working hard. We're actually ahead of schedule we started in January on demolition and cleanup work. We're actually about a month ahead of schedule on that. We will actually be doing the
bulk of our major rough-ins and the like starting May 4th. That's our trigger date. And we would like to have a soft opening and an event probably around the second week of March. And then we would like to be open for the parade next year on St. Patrick's Day. I have a little bit of Irish heritage in me. I've also been escorted out of this hotel a couple of times for which I have told people is one of the reasons I bought it. I figured they can't throw me out anymore. And then have a grand opening probably sometime around April to May. We'd like to be obviously open next year for the graduation season and for the summer. So, you know, that's pretty much an overview of the project. I mean, you've got some questions for me and the like, and how do you want to proceed?
Rita's got a question. Let's go start here.
Okay. Keeping with historical requirements and all, how do you make a building like that handicap accessible with doorways and bathrooms and everything?
No, actually we're in very good shape with that. First of all, the elevators are there already. So why the elevators are small, they do meet requirements to get people vertically up and down. A lot of these a lot of these older buildings, the problem is they don't have elevators, and they're very expensive to put in. But we have that to start with, which is good. The second thing is we have looked at all the areas of the building, and we will be modifying, some of the rooms will be handicapped accessible. And we'll be modifying some of the doors. We're actually going to be, to take some of the doors out, we'll actually build a new door, but take the lid and apply it onto a modern door with a wider opening. So we're already working through that. I've got a consultant to do that. When you have a major flag, such as what we're talking about here, you have to meet ADA standards. It's no way around it. Will it be like a new building? I mean, absolutely 110% accessible? No. There has to be some areas that we just can't get people, and you don't want people to go to. The boiler room, for instance, I mean, really? We call it the Titanic room. And the coal-fired boiler, we're not going to use that anytime soon, so I don't think we need anybody to shovel coal. But, it's a challenge, but we've got it so to meet today's standards. So we'll meet all the requirements all the way down through.
Thank you.
How does Syracuse University, you mentioned graduation,
Yeah.
fit into this whole equation in terms of the amount of business you see?
We look at our business from three sources as it goes through. The first is the business transient business that we have, and because of our affiliation with our flag and also the conference center and also the rooms, that's going to be a very high penetration. They're looking at about 181% penetration, and that says if the average of any hotel does so many room nights a year at 100%, we're 181%, so almost double that. So our core business is that business transient, which is also the group business, which is the convention center down the street. The second is leisure transient, and that's what you're talking about, where people come and go. That is strong at certain times. Our season runs from about May 1st until around September 1st. Sort of coincides with snow for some reason, but that's a strong for the transient leisure market. The problem with that is it's also the strong period of time for the business market in the groups, because a lot of our groups that go and use the convention center are not fly-in or not business. They're people like the chiefs of police, the firemen, and they come in the summer and they drive into these events. So we have a little bit of a competition there, but the shoulder seasons are also very strong for the transient leisure market. So that's good, and that's where Syracuse plays into it. And they've been down. I would tell you that Syracuse representatives of the university have been down 2 or 3 times to talk to us about events, different things. I mean, let's face it, we have 43,000 square foot of function space. I mean, no one in the city comes close to that. And the other part of it is you could never build a hotel like this again. You would never build that kind of ballroom space and function space because you couldn't afford it. It's just impossible to do it. And then the third piece of our business is all you folks. It's the community. As I said before, you drive a tremendous amount of business. You're going to go down there. There's dates. I mean, come on. New Year's is a phenomenal date at the hotel. We'll have that back. St. Patrick's weekend, etc. Those type of events will come back and be part of it. So we rely on all three of those to sort of mix our business in all the way through.
Where do you park?
Across the street. First of all, this being a luxury upscale hotel, upper upscale hotel as it's really classified, probably 80% of the people will do valet parking. So you'll pull up on Onondaga Street, drop your keys off, you'll go to your event, your car will go over, be taken to valet. We requested from the city to change Warren Street to two-way so that we can go up to the end, take a right, go down to the garages and get in. But there's the good news is, unlike the old days with the hotel, the city built Harrison Street Garage, which is the largest garage in the city. It's right across kitty corner from across Harrison Street from us. It's brand new. It's a very modern facility, very good, secure facility. And then we have the Hotel Syracuse garage. I am negotiating, as I say, I've sort of got the same group of hornets nesting in the garage. They used to nest in my building. I'm negotiating with them now to see if I can get them out and get the garage.
That's the old Strand garage?
It's where the Strand was, right. It's the old Hotel Syracuse garage. And that's connected by the bridge. That's the reason we like to get it. So we're good with parking. That's one thing I don't have to worry about on this one.
Is the current administration cooperative?
I can't say enough about everyone involved in this. The mayor, this building was taken by eminent domain. Okay, I negotiated for 18 months with all these, as I say, the hornets and the like, and I just couldn't get anywhere. And I basically said to the city and the county and the state, I said, look, I tried. If you really want to do this, you got to do what I call the nuclear option. You've got to say it's blighted. We got pieces of the building falling off. You could kill somebody, and all these they're real things. I mean, the building was deteriorating to the point, and I said to him, I said, hey, I'm a registered architect. I have to write you a letter and tell you that somebody can get killed. I said, otherwise, I'll get in trouble. And it finally sunk in that within a very short period of time, they were going to lose this building. It would get to the point where the water damage up on the top floor would seep through the whole building, and it would make it impossible to restore like we are. I started fixing the roof a year and a half before I owned the building, out of my own pocket, to keep the water out of it. I paid the NYMO bills a year before I owned it, to keep some heat in the place so it didn't freeze. I felt that if you're gonna roll the dice and you're gonna do something, it's gonna save me in the long run, And the city stepped up and took it by eminent domain through CITA, and then sold it to me, and that speaks volumes about the city's commitment to this project. The county has repurposed the $15 million for the convention center hotel. The county executive has been very supportive of the project. We have a stakeholders meeting every Monday morning where we get everyone around the table and we sit down, and it started with just 3 of us at a small little coffee shop. It's now in a conference room with about 8 of us around the table and another 8 or 9 on the phone. So the project's come a long way because of that. The support that we've got from Center State. We had one gap last year, which was about a $3.5 million bust in our numbers, so to speak. And the community came up through Center State and the like, and very much got a Red Sea grant from the state. That's a Regional Economic Development Council grant. That grant, to give you an idea, it's competitive across the whole state. The Hotel Syracuse, because of the impact to the community, because of the amount of jobs that we were creating and the historic nature of the hotel, was rated the #1 priority, not just in our region, but in the state. It got support from every other region, and we had the largest single grant of any project in the state since that process has been put in place. So we did very well. So I can't speak highly enough about the support that the community has given us to do this. It's been phenomenal, plain and simple.
Without it, it almost stops.
It goes. It's, again, the simple math problem. 67-37. Without all that help, and without people saying they want it done, it goes away. It goes away.
Will the units in the the former days building, how will they relate to this? Will they give any competition?
When you say that, you mean not the days building, but the tower annex?
Yeah.
No, it's designed, or basically the program for that is to be a different type of hotel. Where we're a transient hotel, we're looking at that other one being a extended stay hotel. And one of the reasons we're looking at that is because of the huge growth in the demand generators in downtown Syracuse, which is really all fueled by the healthcare segment. and Syracuse becoming a regional healthcare facility. So you get a lot of people to come in for, let's say an eye exam and a quick, operation, but they can't go home because they have a 2 or 3 day recheck before they can be discharged to go back to their doctor in Plattsburgh or wherever it is. They need a place to stay. They don't want to stay in a transient hotel because they have their family with them, so they want somewhere where they can cook and do all that. So we looked at the 2 buildings and said, one's a business hotel, it's serving the convention center. The other one's really more of an extended stay hotel that's looking at that other demand generation market. It does very well.
Let me interject. Center State is what the Metropolitan Development and the Chamber of Commerce used to be. Am I?
Yes, it's combined all.
If they combine that, so taking those 2 entities, financial interest and entrepreneurial thinking, and combining into Center State, and then mitering in to the Marriott Syracuse. We're not going to call it the Hotel Syracuse anymore, guys. We're going to call it the Marriott Syracuse. And I'm going to have Eddie change the name up on the screen right away to Marriott Syracuse, which is super. So you have to understand the parts that come into play to this, okay? And I'm going to guarantee you, you're going to go downtown and say, I'll meet you at the Marriott for lunch. Yes.
Will this make a significant impact in Syracuse's ability to be a convention center for really big conferences?
Oh, absolutely. No, this is a game changer for the downtown area. I think, I'm not sure, but I believe this will be the smallest city downtown that has a full-service Marriott hotel. I mean, I should probably knew that. I used to be an officer with Marriott. I used to work with Marriott. So, I think it will be. I haven't done all the research yet, but I'm pretty sure. And I know that they don't have many historic hotels like this. This is a little bit out of the box for them to do this. So, I think that they're changing as a company. I used to call it Mother Marriott was my nickname when I had to go down there. And, they're trying to, they see that there has to be more engagement in buildings like this, and people that are traveling nowadays, they want experiential experiences. They want things that, are indigenous to that area, and I think that's part of this. And I also think bringing Marriott with their group sales in the way they are. I mean, as far as national group sales and businesses are concerned, nobody touches Marriott. None of the other brands do. And that's the reason that, I was so tickled when they said that they wanted to put a flag on it, because that ensures, again, that it's going to survive. It's not going to have the problems it's had in the past.
What makes a great hotel a great hotel?
The people. The people that work there. It's that simple. If you have the right staff, and they treat you right, and what do you think about all your best experiences when you went somewhere and you stayed somewhere? Most of the time you say, wow, it was a great, I couldn't believe how well the waiter treated me. I couldn't believe the check-in. The girl was so nice, and she took me over here and she told me where to go. The concierge was great. That's what makes a great hotel great. Now, what makes it even better is when you have a great stage to put your players on. And we have a great stage. We have an absolutely knockdown, drag-out, great stage to put them on.
What about the food?
Pardon me?
What about the food? Is Marriott going to be responsible for the kitchen, or?
No. No, I wouldn't do that. I love Marriott, believe me. We're the group sales and stuff. We got to back up here. No. Basically, what we're looking at is we have a couple different ideas. The prow of the building will be a 3-meal restaurant. It's a full-service hotel. You have to have, a 3-meal restaurant that's required of you. Marriott is big into breakfast. They love their breakfast buffet. It's one of their signature things. You go there, you figure you're going to have it. So that has to be there. After that, we have total carte blanche on how we position the food and beverage, what we do. I would like to link that 3-meal restaurant with New York State wines. I don't think they get near the kind of respect that they are. I mean, I will tell you, I I do drink wine, I like it. Red wines from this area, you know, but white wines are definitely good. And I don't think they get enough respect. So I think that, you know, we're at the edge of the Finger Lakes here. A lot of people come here, we should take advantage of that, and we should position our restaurant in that direction. The second one is the sports bar. You know, I make no bones about it. I've already done a position statement on that. I'd like to call it Shaughnessy Michael O'Toole's. That being the name of my first Irish setter that I had. It's the truth. I swear to God. There was Shaughnessy Michael O'Toole too, and now I have Sonny, who's the dumbest of all. If you know Irish setters, you know what I'm talking about. But you know, we want to do that and have it just to be a little trendy, but really have a clubby type of feel to it, and we'll control that also. The last thing is, and we're talking right now conceptually, which is, this is an interesting idea, but I'd be interested to hear what you guys have to say, is we do have a boiler room in this that has 3 boilers that were all coal-fired. And it's about 36 feet below the sidewalk. I mean, it's a deep, deep space. And we've done plans to run an elevator in there, along with a stair, and call it the boiler room. And in the boiler room, we would have a steakhouse, a high-end steakhouse, and we would have a bar that served Boilermakers. So, we thought that would be a really good idea to do that. Some people on my staff looked at me and said, "Okay, what have you been smoking today?" But I said, "Hey, you know, we'll get through it." But yeah, that's the type of food that we're looking at. Marriott will opine on the menus, because I got, like, there's certain things. I got to have a Marriott ham cheeseburger on it. That's Mr. Marriott's deal. It's got to be on the menu. There are certain other things that they like, and there's certain things that they do very well. Okay, and we have to have room service. That's a requirement there too. But the rest of it's totally up to us. You know? And I want it to be more plain to our flavor and to what we have here.
I noticed that the TV is set at the opposite angle of the bed. Is that because of the size of the room?
No, we did that. We did that for a couple of reasons. Let me see if I can get that picture. First of all, the TV pivots. So the TV comes out of this little compartment, and it can come at you this way, or it can turn the other way towards the bed. And the reason for that is you've got people, again, if people are in the sofa sleeper, they may want to be watching TV where the other people don't. The other thing is we're keeping all the plaster walls, this wall right here, and the outside wall, and this wall that divides every other room, are the existing terracotta and plaster walls. And we want to keep those, because literally I could probably set off, you know, a very large explosive in one room, and you're not going to hear it in the next one. It's a totally different construction now. Wow. So in doing that, it would be very difficult to rough in the cable and the electric and all that. So we tried to put it on that wall so we could rough in the electrical and rough in the cable and everything that has to go to it, and also pivot it so both people, or people staying in both areas, could watch.
So it's going to be on a pedestal.
Yeah, it's on a hang thing, and it comes out and twists, and you just. Yeah, so that's what we wanted to get it both ways. The other option was to put it in the center of the room and have it come up and twist, and that never works. That's just problems.
Has the impact on the city sewer system, which is in trouble, been taken into consideration?
You think their sewer system's in trouble? Take a look at mine.
Spirit of Earth Day.
You know, I said to everybody very simple. I paid, you know, about $1.5 million for a building that didn't have running water, sewer, lights, or heat. So I mean, and it's a hotel. It was closed for 10 years. No, we've already had the city in. We actually are going to be generating less effluent out of the building and utilizing less water than when the hotel was open. Because one of the things that happened is all our plumbing fixtures will go to being water saver fixtures. So that cuts it down. We're cutting the amount of rooms from 600 down to 260, ultimately maybe 320. That takes a big difference out of it. We'll be cooking meals differently as it goes in. You know, so what we're discharging is less. The building is already split as far as sanitary and storm. All the roof drains come out on a separate exit from the sanitary, which is really not a big deal to us, because we were going to redo the stormwater anyway coming out because of its age. We don't need, after spending this money, we don't need a roof leader to break in your room. Wouldn't be good. So, you know, in those regards, water consumption, everything else, we're in pretty good shape. Now, you know, as a follow-up and next step to your question on sustainability, not financial business, we will have in this, on top of the grand ballroom, we're doing a full series of photovoltaics. So we'll be generating electricity for the ballroom off of the PVs that'll go on. There's a shed roof or a gabled roof over that arched roof that you see. And it's all south exposure, so it works great for us. Our heating system will have 4 packaged cogen units on the roof that will heat water that goes into a 15,000 gallon water storage tank that's currently on the up in the main penthouse that's been there since the building was built. It was deactivated because they went to pumps to the building sometime in the 40s, whereas it used to be a downfeed. So the tank is reusable. We're going to put hot water in there, and then we're going to use that as a heat exchanger for both our heating system, which will be a water source heat pump system in each room, and then also for our domestic hot water. And then the electricity that's generated out of those cogens will go in to power the corridors, the emergency lights, and some of the other spaces, common spaces to the building, so that if there was a power interruption, our other system would take over before the emergency generator would come. That enables us to do that. We'll also be putting brine wells in to either side of the building, one on Harrison and one on Onondaga, and we'll be rejecting heat through our system, our heating system during the winter. We'll be rejecting it into the brine during the summer. We'll be extracting heat from the brine during the winter. So we are doing a lot of green things in our building to try to make it sensitive and make it, sustainable in that level too.
Do you know the significance of the elephant in the mural that you're talking about?
I have no idea. It's a Persian Tears. I know the significance of my life, I can tell you that. I like my house and I'd like to get back in it sometime in the future.
Are there any other 4-diamond hotels in the Syracuse area? And what are the rooms going to go for?
As much as I can get, I don't know. No, I think that, first of all, as far as 4-diamond hotels are concerned, to today's standards, there hasn't been one here for quite a long time. This will be a 4-diamond hotel. So I figure, I look at it this way. I think there's room in the Syracuse market for one very, very good hotel, period. I think, trying to put a second one here would be very, very difficult for whoever that individual is going to be. Not to say they couldn't try, it would just really hurt the market. There just isn't that much demand for that level of room. The rates are going to be all over for the simple reason that we have a room block agreement with the county as part of, like with anyone, if someone comes with a check, they expect to get reimbursed for their check. So we have a room block that enables them to sell the rooms discounted to convention business, and that depends on the time of year. It's either peak or the shoulder or the slow season, so it's ramped up and down, and it's a significant discount. I mean, they're getting a good deal, throughout the term of their deal. I would say that, at peak season, you're probably looking at a stabilized rate for a room of around 180 to 185 a night. Off season, you're probably in the low 60s, high 50s. I think those would be reasonable rates as I look at it. I mean, it goes up and down. I'll give you an idea right now. The Inns and Armory that opened a year and a half ago, they're running about $192 a night average for their rooms. So the downtown market is very, very strong right now. It's very strong. There's a sea change in hotel demand generation in Syracuse. And that's what we look at when we look at spotting hotels and building hotels, is who your demand generators are. And they used to be in the 60s and the 70s, it was all out Carrier Circle, out by the Thruway and all that. And that's where the growth was, and that's where the businesses are. The growth in our community right now is all downtown. You just need to go down and sit there like I do and see all the cranes up on the hill. I mean, it's SUNY upstate, it's the VA, it's Krause, it's the university, who's pretty much finished their building pattern, but that's it. That's where all the growth is, that's where the demand generation is. And that's the most underserved area of the city for hotels right now. So that's also what makes this sort of a very good project. And a lot of the people that go to those areas that do business expect let's say a little bit higher level of a hotel to stay at. I mean, if you're bringing a doctor in to try to have them do something, at the hospital, teach something, or maybe even recruiting them, their expectation on where they're going to stay is probably a little bit more than a family running through 90 to go to Rochester for the weekend or something.
How do you take the different plans for Interstate 81? What do you
You know, and I'm going to be a politician right now because I get an SL on it. And I just don't want to be beat up on it. I tell people if they want to know what happens when you either get rid of or put an interstate highway below grade and you get rid of the viaduct above grade, I think all you need to do is go to Boston, where my offices were for 10 years before this, and you need to look at what they did with 93 and the Big Dig. It's all you need to do. And all the development that goes on in Boston right now, because the Seaport area from the financial district, which is where my office was in the financial district, Post Office Square, you know, that was always with that there. It was always segmented. It was the development never hopped over. If you look at it now, we just go down, look where the cranes are, and look where all the new buildings are. It's that simple, and that's why I say that's the decision you have to make. You know, it's interesting. That's a good question too. The other night I was reading history. As I say, I'm a big history buff about my community here. And the same argument that we're having right now about Interstate 81 occurred in the early 1930s when they were talking about elevating the railroad and bisecting basically from about James Street from downtown. And I was reading a bunch of articles and things on it, and it was amazing to me the similarities in the positions about what that was going to do to the city. And the buildings and everything else. And surprisingly enough, the city survived. You know, it's still there. It's 690 now, but same things. What's old comes around. Yeah.
What prompted you to do this?
Yes.
I couldn't get a question.
Oh, I tell you.
What was the question?
What prompted me to do this? You know, I looked at it for a long time. I had people, there was Eli Braha was trying to do this before from New York. He actually contacted me and came to Boston with my partners and sat down with us, and we just sort of shook our head and said, he knows more about hospitality than we know, that's scary. And after that meeting and after I saw what was going on and I got back involved in it, I guess I just sort of got up one morning and said, you know, you can either sit here and grouse about things or you can do something about it. And you know, I knew what my background was, and you know, I don't kid anybody, I've been doing just hotels for the last about 22 years. That's been my life, is just hotels. And before that, I did a lot of historic buildings as an architect and as a developer. And you know, I said to myself, look, you know, if you can make a difference, and you know, I'm getting near the end of my career, I make no bones about it. And if you can make a difference to your community and give back, this is a way for me just not to write a check or to, you know, put a name on a building, but actually to give something back that's very, very important to my community. And I said, you know, what the heck? You know, I'll go for it. I'll go do it. I'll get involved. I had a meeting with the county executive, and I was sitting there and I explained my background and what I did and all this, and she looked at me and looked at me, and then she turns to her staff and she says, so let me get this right. She said, this guy lives right there on that hill, and he's lived there his whole life, and you guys couldn't find him. And I said, I didn't want to be found. You know? But that's really, that's what it's about. I mean, you know, it was a crapshoot to do it. It's been a long, as I said, you know, a typical developer would not spend the last 2.5 to 3 years of his life trying to put together a deal. I mean, you know, it's a lot of money, it's a lot of time. I've resigned my position with the Pyramid Hotel Group. As I tell people, I lost my corner office that overlooked Cambridge and all that. If you ever wanted to go to the fireworks, it was a great thing. Half the staff of the building would show up in my office going to the river over for the fireworks on 4th of July. But you know, I don't miss it. I have a nice little cubby and that's not heated, unfortunately. It's very cold this year, but it's in the hotel, and you know, we have a lot of fun. And I got to tell you, some days I say, well, why didn't I do this 10 years ago? You know, I'm just having a good time, and it's great to meet with folks like yourself. It's great to see the enthusiasm. I think I made a comment earlier. I totally underestimated the interest in this project by our community. I really did. I thought I'd see, you know, 1 or 2 things in the paper, and that'd be it, and okay, have a good day. And you know, I mean, it's very humbling. When you sit here, honestly, it's very, very humbling. And I just want to see it open. I just want to see everybody come down and have a good time, and I want to hear people's stories. you know, we're going to set up a website. We want people to post their memories of the hotel. And we want to have, we will have a museum area in the hotel that has things in there and hopefully memories of the hotel and people's stories, because there's so many things. I mean, it's just incredible all the stuff that went on in that building and what it's about. So, that's it.
I can't thank you enough. I can't thank Ed Riley enough for coming here with his enthusiasm, his engagement, his involvement, his pocketbook.
Which is a lot less these days, by the way.
I can well imagine what you're going through, okay? And somewhat of the aggravation you go through every day doing something like this. I've been there a little bit myself, but nothing to that extent, and I know what it takes. It takes getting up in the morning, pinching yourself, and making it happen. Because fortunately, he doesn't have anybody else that wants to do the same thing. But he's got soreness and aggravation that is not going to stop. And I wonder, one other question is, how's he going to get folks from that hotel over to the Civic Center in January and February?
Well, yeah, there still is the infamous tunnel that goes underneath Warren Street. That was built when Money Plaza.
Oh, so they can cut through that, and then how? So they end up over there in the corner.
They end up. No, that what they do is you go from the hotel. You go to the basement of the hotel, and there's a tunnel that connects you from the hotel over to the parking structure below the plaza. All right. Then you walk through the parking structure, up a set of stairs on the other side, and then you walk into, and there's a set of doors that gets you into a tunnel that connects the War Memorial with the convention center. And that's how you can do it.
So you're going to have to party and pretty that up a bit, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Or somebody's going to.
Not accessible. There's nothing accessible about that. My end is, their end is. But we are looking at, though, one of the things we do want to do is we're looking at the entire corridor of Harrison Street from our hotel all the way up to the convention center, and then all the way up to where 81 is. And you know, times have changed with people. I mean, you know, where we used to build bridges and want to be inside all the time. Nowadays, with urban planning and folks, they don't mind walking a couple blocks outside to get up to the convention center. So that's not a big deal. As much as it was, I think we make it more than it is nowadays. So we're pretty comfortable with the pedestrian connection and enhancing that. I mean, we need to enhance that. We have more work to do than just this hotel. We have a convention center district that I've sort of become a little bit of a pusher with the county and the city on. That yeah, you get this thing back, you get this all ready to go, and it looks good. But you got to help too to get the rest of our convention center district, you know, renovated and very friendly, because that is the impression of our community to a lot of people that come here. And right now, it's not a great impression between the hotel being dark and falling apart, and you know, all the other problems that are down in that area with the parking garages and the roads not being as good as they really should be. You know, we need to spiff it up and make sure that when people do start coming here, because they will, I mean, they're going to have a good hotel, that we put our best foot forward. That's it.
Will they think about some kind of shuttle going up to the medical center?
Oh yeah, well,
to SU?
We'll definitely have I've already started talks with a couple of different groups on a shuttle. We'll have a shuttle that go to the airport. We'll have a shuttle that goes on a regular basis to all the areas of interest. We'll have an actual group check-in. Will actually come in on Warren Street and check in the lower lobby area. So those are, you know, that's got to be a big part of it. I mean, we're not going to ignore it. We're going to say, hey, you're here, walk wherever you want. No, we'll get people to and from places. We have to do that. That's part of our function.
There are 3 ways to thank Ed. One with a little applause, tell your friends, and patronize the hotel when it comes about. And tell your friends about it.